Day 7, the valedictory session.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Department of English, DAV College Varanasi, it's my immense pleasure to welcome you all to the valedictory session of our one-week national workshop titled Enduring Scars, Trauma, Identity and Survival in Holocaust Literature. Over the past week, we have journeyed through the depths of Holocaust literature, exploring themes of trauma, identity, resilience, and survival. These discussions have opened new perspectives and ignited meaningful dialogues. We are honored today to have with us as a chief guest Professor Anita Singh Ma'am, Head Department of English, Banaras Hindu University, and guest of honor Dr. Bhanumati Mishra Ma'am, Head Department of English, RM Mehla PG College. Your presence will greatly enrich today's session. We eagerly look forward to your reflections on this significant journey. I also warmly welcome, just a minute, uh, our resource person, Dr. Annie Bimladi, Assistant Professor of English from SRL Institute of Science and Technology, Chennai. Our head of the department, Professor Sangeeta Jain, our esteemed faculty members, Professor Indrajit Mishra, Dr. Najmul Hassan, Dr. Mahima, Miss Sanskriti, as well as distinguished faculty members from affiliated colleges, scholars from various institutions, participants, and students. Welcome to each one of you. To recount our journey over the past week, I now invite our head of the department, Professor Sangeeta Jain, to present the workshop report capturing the highlights and accomplishments of this remarkable week. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Vandana. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, dear Anita Madam, Bhanumati Madam, dear colleagues, friends, participants, and students. I welcome you all to this valedictory session of a week-long national workshop. The Department of English at DAV College, Varanasi organized a national workshop entitled Enduring Scars, Trauma, Identity, and Survival in Holocaust Literature from 21st to 27th of October 2024. Conducted on the Google Meet platform, this workshop brought together scholars, students, and professionals from diverse institutions across India to delve deeply into themes of trauma, identity, and resilience in Holocaust literature. The workshop was inaugurated with the chief guest, Dr. Shardul Chaube, Senior Assistant Registrar at Banaras Hindu University, whose insightful remarks provided a contemporary perspective on the Holocaust. He connected the tragic events of the Holocaust with modern issues, highlighting the dangers of unchecked prejudice. Esteemed faculty members, distinguished educators, and scholars from colleges and institutions across the nation, Dr. Bhanumati Mishra, Dr. Amit Shukla, Dr. Supriya Singh, Dr. Priyanka, Dr. Sushma, Dr. Prateek Anand, Dr. Rituparna Datta from JPR College of Arts and Science graced the occasion with their participation. The workshop witnessed participation from institutions such as the University of Allahabad, Rabindra Bharati University, Kazi Nazrul University, and the University of Hyderabad, IIT BHU, University of Kalyani, Global Institute of Science and Technology, Haldia, Bundelkhand University, along with DAV College. Scholars from a variety of fields and locations are Mahila PG College, Vasant Kanya Mahavidyalaya, Mangalaitan University, Galgodias University, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, as well contributed to the diverse and vibrant intellectual exchange. About the resource person and workshop sessions. All the 6 sessions of the workshop were led by Dr. Annie Vimla D, Assistant Professor of English from the Faculty of Science and Humanities at SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Chennai. Her expertise guided participants through an in-depth exploration of trauma, identity, and resilience in Holocaust literature. Dr. Annie's presentations helped participants understand the profound psychological, emotional, and societal scars left by the Holocaust and the resilience displayed by survivors. Key themes explored during the workshop included historical context and theoretical frameworks, psychological and societal aspects, literary reflections of trauma, resilience, and resistance. Dr. Annie introduced the historical background of the Holocaust, examining dehumanization and systemic persecution under Nazi ideology. Foundational theories such as Freud's views on trauma and Kathy Carrott's interpretation of trauma as fragmented consciousness were discussed alongside Foucault's notions of power and domination, Gramsci's hegemony, and James C. Scott's ideas on resistance. The workshop underscored the damaging effects of systematic oppression and prejudice, exploring the Nazi ideology that portrayed Jews as a subhuman race. The brutal consequences of this ideology included the final solution were examined in relation to the psychological scars left on the survivors. Dr. Annie discussed significant Holocaust memoirs such as I Was a Doctor by Gisela Pearl, Five Chimneys by Olga, Triumph of Hope by Ruth, and Thanks to My Mother. These works provided profound insights into the survivors' experience and illustrated how literature preserves and reflects the trauma endured. Themes of resilience and resistance were emphasized throughout the workshop. Dr. Annie highlighted how survivors engage in both passive and active resistance, maintaining their identity and spirit despite the unbearable conditions. She shared a powerful message of hope, saluting the indomitable spirit demonstrated by Holocaust survivors. On the fifth day of the workshop, Principal Professor Satyagopalji enriched the session with his invaluable insights. He connected the workshop's theme to psychological impacts such as trauma, PTSD, schizophrenia, and identity crisis, offering a nuanced understanding of how these conditions affected both survivors and oppressed communities under Nazi rule. As we conclude this impactful workshop, we reflect on our journey through the complex themes of trauma, survival, and identity. Our discussions have illuminated the resilience of the human spirit, even amid extreme adversity. This week has deepened our understanding of the concept of identity and the way genocides aim not only to destroy individual lives, but to erase the cultural and social identities of entire communities. This workshop has underscored the importance of Holocaust literature as a medium for exploring the depths of human cruelty, as well as the strength and resilience of survivors. We hope that this experience has instilled a greater awareness of the moral and ethical lessons from this dark chapter of history, inspiring us to prevent similar injustices in the future. Thank you. Now over to Vandana.
Thank you, ma'am, for the comprehensive report that beautifully encapsulated the experiences and insights we have gained throughout this workshop. Now it's time to listen our guests. We are deeply honored to have with us today Anita Singh ma'am as our chief guest. Ma'am, your presence is invaluable to us and we are delighted to have you here. Your distinguished contributions to English literature and trauma studies will bring definitely profound depth to our closing session. Uh, Little biodata, though mom's work is very great, but still I'm trying to reframe it within the lines, though difficult task. Anita Singh ma'am serves as the head of the Department of English at Banaras Hindu University and co-coordinator of the Center for Women Studies and Development. With over 27 years of teaching experience and a distinguished career, she is a versatile scholar involved in both academic and non-academic spheres. Known for her unique vision and insightful ideas, she has served as a visiting professor at many prestigious universities, published extensively in reputed journals, authored and edited several books, and been actively involved in significant academic bodies. Her extensive list of achievements speaks to her exceptional contributions to academia. Her expertise spans gender studies, performance studies, and a range of literature, including British, American, and Indian. Her notable project, funded by the Indian Council of Social Science Research, titled Staging Gender Performing Women in the Ram Leela of Ramnagar, reflects her pioneering insights in Indian drama and performative gender roles. Today, ma'am will illuminate connections between indigenous trauma, partition, and Indian trauma studies. So, anything else, ma'am will let us know what she's going to give us. Always, it's really very like we enjoy listening to her and to be with her in both the ways. So today we are getting that opportunity, and I welcome you also and thank you also because you're a special Sunday. You gave the time for us. Thank you, ma'am. So without further ado, I invite you, ma'am, to share your insights with us. Thank you, ma'am.
For reminding me. A very good afternoon to all of you. I greet all the members of the DAV PG College and Dr. Bhanumati Mishra from Armela College, who has also joined. Dr. Annie, who has been the coordinator of this week-long program from the SRM University. So I was approached yesterday, so I didn't really know, what to do. Trauma, basically, not really. I mean, Holocaust has not really been my area of study, but yes, we deal with a lot of trauma in different ways. So I thought that I could talk about, and I got a brief overview of what has been done during this 1 week that Dr. Sangeeta apprised me about. For instance, like you did a bit of historical context, you did a bit of psychological implications of how trauma of the Holocaust impacted the survivors and so on. So I will begin with, is my slide audible?
Visible, ma'am, and audible also.
It's visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So you can see what I intend to do with you. So I thought maybe, you have covered a lot of area, probably, or I'm not sure if you've covered this also. So I will close this, session with what the question that I put before you is, does the Holocaust have ethical implications for today? So how is it that we react to, or what lessons do we learn from the Holocaust? So the Holocaust was a very, harrowing experience for us that we have not even forgotten even today. Or for instance, the partition. So what do we learn from this, this event that we have all undergone, that we have all experienced, not firsthand now anymore, but through literature, through memory, through writings, and so on. So if we look at the academic study, so we are all in academics and we look at the Holocaust or the trauma from the perspective of, just a minute, I will minimize, just a minute, if I can do that. If I can just a minute. Okay, I think I'll have to end the slideshow. And I just wanted to close my screen because it is taking a lot of energy. Okay, so am I still visible? My slides are still visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. So the academic study of ethics in the light of experience of the Holocaust has been witnessed a rapid development in the last decade. In the last decade, we all talk about ethics and how are we engaging with it? What is the responsibility and the answerability of us as collective or as individual to the events that have gone, and how do we approach these events? How do we strategize these events? So so one way of doing it is storytelling. Now, storytelling is a very powerful means, as Hannah Arendt in her work The Human Condition writes, that storytelling enables us to transform private meaning to public meaning. So storytelling helps you to insert your narrative into the public domain. So it helps people understand what you have gone through. So your specific experience is made visible. So two texts I have placed before you. If you can see, Rab Bennett's Under the Shadow of the Swastik, The Moral Dilemma of Resistance and Collaboration in Hitler's Europe, and Herbert Hirsch, Genocide and the Politics of Memory, Studying Death to Preserve Life. So look at the last word. So if we look at what has happened during the Holocaust, we've all had, a graphic description of the kind of torture, the death, the discrimination, the extermination that the Jews faced during the Holocaust. So how do we look at this event? So we look at this, we engage with this event. How does memory, help us to engage with this event? So these two books largely talk about what is the ethical responsibility of us as an individual and collectively as a nation as a whole. Are we regurgitating these feelings of hatred? How are we kind of looking at the events or the animosity we may have for someone or about someone? How do we engage with that? So here both these texts are talking about memory and our engagement with these events in a more critical way. So we have to look at things in a more critical way and see how we can engage with these memories and see that it is not replicated. So very often we replicate hatred, we propagate hatred, we spread hatred. So how is this memory used not to create further kind of discriminations and so on? Now, one text that I found very powerful was Hannah Arendt's, who is a political theorist and a philosopher, Ickman in Jerusalem, a report on the banality of evil and the origins of totalitarianism. Now, this person, Adolf Eichmann, was heading the department for the Jewish affairs, and he was responsible under, of course, Adolf Hitler, and he was responsible for sending the Jews to the concentration camps, to the ghettos, deporting them, getting them exterminated, and these Jews who were in the ghettos, they were also gassed. You have heard of all these, in the week that has gone by. So after the Second World War, he was, of course, arrested on 15 charges, and he faced a trial. And these charges were several: war crimes, crimes against Jews, larger crimes against humanity, and so on. And he was subsequently hanged on 1st of June 1962. So this was the narrative of this man called Adolf Eichmann, who was one of the very important bureaucrat under Adolf Hitler, and he was the person who was managing the entire the cruelty towards Jews, so to say. Now, when he faced trial, he did not deny his role, and he simply said that he was following orders in a totalitarian system. So he said that I was almost doing it thoughtlessly, a kind of a disengagement from reality of the the gory evil acts that he had committed. He said he was given orders and he just followed the orders, as simple as that. So he was almost unfazed in the trial that he faced in Jerusalem. And as he was facing the trial, or as he was in the courtroom, as Hannah Arendt reports, he never realized what he was doing, and he presented himself as he had done nothing wrong. He was simply following the orders from a higher authority. So she says that what was wrong with Adolf Eichmann was his inability to think from the standpoint of somebody else, his inability to think of his own actions critically. He was simply following. So what Hannah talks about is, we very often, now how do we relate it to the larger context of today's world? We very often conform to a certain idea that circulates, that is handed down to us without questioning it. Certain prejudices, certain stereotypes that circulate in society, we simply follow as though it is a kind of a custom to discriminate against so and so, to talk about a certain person in a certain manner. So Adolf Eichmann was pretty much doing the same, following certain things, charges that were given to him, thoughtlessly, uncritically, irresponsibly. So these are three ways in which Adolf Eichmann was reacting to the orders that were given to him. So Hannah Arendt then says, analyzes the entire scenario in the context of Holocaust storytelling. And she says, what was happening to this man? So why was he reacting in this way? So she uses a term that is called the banality of evil. So the evil is there, and we do not really analyze or critically look at the evil and think of it as something that has to be resisted, relooked, or rethought of. So we have an example of Mersault in Albert Camus' novel The Stranger, who has lost his mother. He comes back, and the same day when he has lost his mother, he does not drop a tear. He, in fact, goes on and sleeps with a woman, and then in a courtroom, he kills a man as well. And there is no remorse. And he feels absolutely no remorse in what he has done. The deed has just happened. So Camus projects this person as something, he has done something thoughtlessly, mindlessly, without critically analyzing why has he done what he has done. So what these two people are trying to suggest, whether it is Albert Camus through his novel The Stranger, or Hannah Arendt through the illustration of this person, this bureaucrat who was a chief bureaucrat in Adolf Hitler's regime, called Adolf Eichmann. So they were both acting. One was acting from his as an arbitrary action. The other was simply, as the other claimed, was simply taking down orders from from the higher orders, without actually pausing and looking at his actions and how these actions might impact people who are affected by your actions. So we as humans cannot think that our actions, and we have to sit and reflect what is that we what Hannah Arendt tries to talk about, and this is what the entire story of Holocaust warns us against, that we have to look at our, and how do we act after Holocaust? How do we look at the experience of Holocaust and behave in a more responsible, or as I said, we have to have a responsibility and answerability of the deeds that we commit every day. So even a small deed that we commit has a ripple effect. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Arthur Miller's All My Sons. So Arthur Miller's All My Son is about about a single character, and he has done nothing wrong as far as his perception goes. He thinks he has merely sent out defective cylinders, and he thought he would make a profit in the during the wartime. But these defective cylinders are further sent to the Air Force, and they are used by the pilots, and so many pilots die as a consequence of the defective cylinders. And it is at the end, so it starts off by thinking of the self, of thinking of some deed that I have committed. And it doesn't matter that it is a dishonest deed, because it is only affecting me, benefiting me or not affecting me. This is the logic that Joe Keller tells himself, or Joe Keller convinces himself about. But at the end of the play, he realizes that his one small deed had a huge impact on humanity at large. So, we have to. So the moral of the story was that we are very connected with the entire world, and one small misdeed can have a ripple effect and be a kind of can create harm to the world at large. So this is what I think of as the ethics of Holocaust, and what does Holocaust teach us. So going further, what does this entire storytelling of the Holocaust tell us? How do we look at stories, the survivor's testimony and the trauma? the role of fiction in Holocaust representation. How do we represent Holocaust? So we have to be very aware of the way that we approach these stories. We have to be careful about oversimplification or historical inaccuracies that may creep in our narrative. So art, literature, films have creative liberties to express the inexpressible aspects of human suffering and survival. So art, literature, and films also have an ethical responsibility of creating a balance and creating a kind of an ethical opening in the lives of the readers and receptors who confront them. Also, I'm not reading the entire thing. You can see these are the ways in which we can engage with narratives, and as I said when in the earlier slide, that how does national narrative look at these older narratives as memories, as post memories, and engage with them in a more ethical way. So the storytelling by the second generation, so now it is not, may not be the second, it could be the third generation as well. We must balance the respect for survivors' generations' experience with our own need to process the inherited trauma. So what we have now is an inherited trauma, and how do we engage with our contemporary concerns and so on. And lastly, art forms like we are engaging with, whether it is films, literature, novels, poems, or whatever creative art, or paintings and so on. They all offer unique ways to tell Holocaust stories or trauma stories or stories of the Indian partition or whatever has been, or any traumatic experience that we have experienced. And they all reach diverse audiences. So when we write or when we paint or when we sing, we have a certain target audience in our mind. So as creators, we must consider the boundaries of depicting violence and suffering without falling into the trap of voyeurism or exploitation. And finally, as I said, that how do we engage with these events? And we have to be very careful when we are engaging with these very sensitive events, whether we are creating it for further dispute and discrimination and hatred, or we are using these very harrowing or traumatic event for creating more equitable and or a more livable kind of a human space that the world that we inhabit. So with these words I will close, and if you have any questions we can take that. So I'll stop presenting and okay. So that was it. So if anybody has a question, if questions are allowed, I'm ready to take that. Yeah. Yes.
Good afternoon, Anita ma'am.
Good afternoon, Swarnil.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
I'm
you.
a freshers student at DAV PG College. First of
Okay.
all, I would like to provide my earnest salutations to you and our other esteemed guests today. So my question would be for this presentation, you talked about a concept called post-memory. I would like to know, is that concept similar to the concept of collective trauma or transgenerational trauma in that
Yeah,
sense?
exactly. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Because it is this memory is coming to us as memory, as somebody else's memory. So like when exactly was the Holocaust? What period would we say? 1930s, 39,
Mhm.
36, 38,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
post the Second World War, Second World War. Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
the memory could be of your grandfather, grandmother, or people who are of a different generation. But the trauma of Holocaust or the trauma of partition, so to say, are so deep that it trickles down to us. I'm reminded of Urvashi Butalia's The Other Side of Silence. So she has not experienced partition, firsthand. It is her mothers and her grandmothers who have experienced that. So she tries to recuperate the experience because it is there in her mind. So she looks at it from different angles. So she looks at testimony, she looks at newspaper clippings, she talks to people, and ethnographic research, and so on. So, what is she doing? She is unearthing the stories that probably were never told. So, very often, these events, we have a protocol history. We have a protocol history. And
Mhm.
the subaltern narratives, the narratives that have not been heard, are narratives that have now become important. So we have always heard a kind of a national protocol history that has been recorded and handed down to us, but the narratives of an everyday person so these become also very important in the process. So why do we go back again to Holocaust? Because we have not healed. So this is a process of healing. So the trauma of Holocaust, or as I said, partition, the wounds have been so great that the healing is still there. This healing is an ongoing process. And not just this Holocaust or trauma, we can relate it to all kinds of very traumatic events that we face in our lives. And we have to have a healing process for that. And also we have to look at it from an ethical standpoint. So that how do we engage with certain kind of cruelty in other ways? We find all types of drama. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sonu Tudu talks about Mrs. Dalloway and uh, the Septimus Warren Smith. He's a war victim and the kind of trauma that he faces.
Mhm.
So trauma has there is an unspeakable element of a trauma, but we need to talk about it so that the process of healing it happens. The process of healing somewhere begins. Okay, thank you so much, Swarnil.
Thank you.
No other question.
Okay.
Yes,
Uh,
Vandana.
thank you, ma'am,
Thank
for
you.
your enlightening address on the ethical implications of the Holocaust today. You emphasize the role of memory and critical engagement with such events to foster understanding rather than perpetuate hatred. Your insights on individuals following oppressive orders highlighted the complexities of judgment and retribution. Art and literature, as you noted, hold a profound ethical responsibility to open perspectives, enrich lives, and approach historical trauma with care. By thoughtfully considering boundaries, creators can encourage reflection and deepen our collective sensitivity and understanding. Thank you, ma'am. Before we welcome the guest of honor, or we should start the second session, just a humble request to all the participants: kindly turn on their videos so we can capture a group photo of this momentous gathering. So all the participants, colleagues, kindly turn on your videos so that we can have a group photo. So it's now time to welcome the guest of honor. We are equally honored to welcome Dr. Bhanumati Mishra ma'am, head of the Department of English at Armela PG College, known for her warm, dynamic approach. Ma'am's dedication to academia is really very exemplary. Ma'am has completed her research from IIT Kanpur in natural language processing, authored 3 books, that those books are available on Amazon, and contributed thought-provoking articles to newspapers like The Hindu and Hindustan Times. She has appeared as a guest speaker on prominent TV channels such as CNN, News, and Times Now. Coming from an army background, she brings a perspective deeply rooted in national values, civilizational identity, post-colonial literature, and Indian philosophy. She will, as we know, is going to share her poetic reflections on drama, adding a deeply personal and artistic dimension to today's discussion. Or anything else, it's up to you, ma'am. Now the forum is for you. I invite you to present your views. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Vandana. Before I begin, I must admit it's an honor and privilege to be sharing space with Professor Anita Singh. I again think she's very unique in the way her erudition shines and her humility. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing the space with me.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much, Bhanumati.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. Uh, Dr. Sangeeta, Dr. Vandana, then Indrajit, and now Najmul, all of you, you guys have put together a wonderful workshop. I'm sure the students have benefited from it. And I want to congratulate the entire department of DAV, Department of English, DAV College, for inviting me and also for doing something that would, be very contemporary, at the same time very thought-provoking. And kudos to Dr. Annie for, I think, being the resource person for all the 7 days. That I did miss a few sessions in between. However, I think I'll sum up what I feel about the, because when you say Holocaust, the Holocaust is equivalent to Jews and the extermination of Jews. Trauma and Holocaust, trauma can be from personal to international. You can have trauma in communities and societies and families, personal and beyond the national boundaries too. In the field of films and literature, I've seen the trauma of Holocaust being kept alive through films, through books, through various articles, and international exposure that is given to the Holocaust survivors and the victims as well as the perpetrators. And we, growing up, when we were growing up, we knew a lot about it through books like Schindler's List, and what I think there's another beautiful film. I think it's called Beautiful Life or something like that. So we knew a lot about it, and we knew very little back home. We had something as traumatic, but then not much exposure has been given to it. And we as Indians, we growing up as students of literature, unfortunately did not get much to read about it, except for I think Khushwant Singh's Partition, about the train to Pakistan on Partition, and a few other books, and Amitabh Ghosh's The Shadow Lines on the Bengal Partition, and I think Aga Shahid Ali when he talks about Kashmir. So there have been many pre-colonial and post-colonial genocides, or this kind of human tragedies. But then the saddest part is that our students and we did not get much exposure. We did not debate enough. We did not learn our lessons, and maybe it was because of the lack of social media or whatever you may call it. But you must admit that the way the Holocaust has been kept alive, we have not been able to do that with partition or Bengal or Punjab partition or the very recent Sikh riots or the Kashmir issue. Normally what happens is, like Anita ma'am said, storytelling is the most powerful way of keeping things alive, not because you want to hate your enemy, but because you want to learn lessons from it, and you want to make sure you don't repeat something like that ever again. And also that the human tragedy is so near a home that it's easier for you to find solutions here rather than know about the Holocaust, and there's not much you can do there. But here back home, when you're talking about genocides and you're talking about the human tragedy, almost equivalent, or not equivalent, but at least a little less, but then equally tragic, is the genocides that have happened here too. Besides the films and everything, I think all of us have this. Either we are, firsthand. Unfortunately, we don't actually have a lot of literature, but then you can always go to people who are still alive, who can tell you stories about the partition. And I think that generation is almost now octogenarians, and you still can go to survivors of the Bengal partition. And I think I'm very interested in these kind of stories where I get a first-hand account. And today, although I had thought of reading something from my book of poetry, I think I'll tell you a small story of personal experience that I had. A first-hand experience, or not a first-hand, but then I mean, what happens is when you're reading about it in literature, it becomes tertiary. Secondary is when it happens to very close family or friends, and then the first-hand, of course, is the most unfortunate, that you are a victim of something like this. So my experience and my narration today to you will be about a very close friend. As you know, my husband, who was in the Air Force, but we got posted in Srinagar, and that was in the late 80s and very early 90s. And we had a family friend who were locals. They were the Mattus. They were a very well educated family. They owned a hotel and a couple of shikaras. And as a young couple, my husband had befriended them, and we used to go to their home to have kahwa or maybe some Kashmiri delicacies. And they had a daughter who was around 20 years old, Pavitra, who became a very good friend of mine. And she was well read, bright girl, just finished school. And we were great friends because I was a newlywed and I didn't have much to do. So we would often come to each other's home. And then in 1991, we got posted out from there. And then life went on. We didn't have mobiles then. So what happened is that we lost touch, and I got busy with my own family and work. In 1996, that is exactly, I think, 7 years from our first meeting then, 1996, we again got posted to Jammu. And in the meantime, the very horrible Kashmir genocide or exodus, or however you would want to put it, had happened. And there was this trauma which was quite unknown to a major part of the population around me at that time. So I didn't really get to know the severity of it. So when we went to Jammu, my husband again wanted to find out where this family was, and to our horror, we came to know that they were in one of the refugee camps in Jammu, and it I can't explain the numbness that I felt when I met her and the family there, because by that time Mr. Mattu had perished because the hotel that he was owning at that time, he was there one night, and the hotel was gutted. The family, the mother and the daughter, had to flee, and they reached Jammu with their community. And when we went there, it was a series of temporary tents that they were living in. They had an uneven floor that was maybe a government temporary home that was given to the community. It was in the outskirts of Jammu. These people, if you know Jammu and Kashmir, I'm sure you know, Jammu is very different from Kashmir, Srinagar or Kashmir. And the people in Kashmir are not used to the heat of Jammu. The language is different. Jammu people are Dogras, and Kashmiris are, they don't really, they're not, Dogras didn't really welcome them, to be frank. They were very unwelcome. And the kind of pathetic state in which they were staying in those days in the temporary accommodations, they were almost like a tent, and a series of tents were there, and there was no sanitation. There were common bathrooms. These people were living without much subsistence. They had to flee, so there was not much money, and the food that they were getting was also not what I mean. The lifestyle had changed completely. The mother had gone into silence. I think it was dementia later. And when we met them, we were not speaking to each other. We were only holding each other and crying. And I didn't know how to respond to the family. And later on, I stayed in Jammu for 3 years. Yes, 96 to 99. And in those 3 years, I could see the struggle. I could see the survival instincts of this community. I could see the grit and determination of this young girl. And she taught for some time in the schools. She would take care of her mother. And she was not bitter. That's the biggest part of her personality. She was not bitter. But then somehow they didn't have much time to really seek help, or they were just at the mercy of the government and the state governments. And luckily for her, an Air Force officer married her. She continued to retain her maiden name, that is Pavitra Mattu Singh. And now she stays in Delhi. She's lost her mother to a scorpion bite, because there used to be all kinds of scorpions and snakes around there. She lost her mother, and later on she married, and then after her husband retired, now they have settled in Delhi. She has 2 sons. When I look at her life, you can see the survival instincts. You can see that she's been in and out of psychiatric treatment many a times. She has fits and many other psychological problems. But then the beauty is that she has maintained to retain the language, the customs, the festivals that Kashmiris celebrate, and her 2 sons can speak her language. And she is part of the Panun Kashmir group. And all she ever dreams of is to go back to where her father, breathed his last, and to go back to her land, and to go and see that place where she spent her childhood, to be in that. So, this is very, very traumatic. This is the first-hand experience of meeting a survivor of human tragedy. So, like Anita ma'am said, and what do we do? And you feel impotent, because there are agencies and there are factors which are really beyond our comprehension. And what we see may be one slice of the truth, but then the truth is much bigger. And this needs to be spoken, this needs to be written, this needs to be kept alive, without which there will be no closure. Closure is very, very important. Where did we get justice? She says. She says, we haven't got justice. We're still there outside. It's the 3rd generation that is outside. It's been 30 odd years now. And I don't think much has been done, despite whatever this government has been trying to do. But this is a human tragedy that was something that I had experienced, and I wanted to share that with all of you, because the topic was such that I decided not to recite my poetry and share this very traumatic experience. Personally, it has changed the way I look at human tragedy and human determination, grit, and survival instincts. A lot can be said, but in this little time that I got, I thought I'd leave you with this thought that we need to tell their stories, because they are not enough people left now to tell. So thank you so much, Sangeeta, for giving me this opportunity to talk, and I hope I have done justice to the topic today. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your moving words. You told, as Indians, we often know less about the painful histories of genocide and displacement tied to India's own colonial and post colonial past, like the partition. Unlike the Holocaust, which remains vividly remembered globally, our partition trauma lacks the same digital preservation and debate. Your personal experience and the story of your close friend deeply touched our hearts, making these reflections even more poignant. Hima. And as you were saying, I just want to tell you something from my personal experience that our forefathers they have came to India during the time of partition. When my grandmother or my granny, all of them, the old people, when they used to tell about all those things, we were never interested to listen and we were never able to understand, or I am saying that I was never able to get connect what is she talking about, why she is talking about. I don't have to do anything with Pakistan or Karachi or the places which she used to mention, but her pain I understood when I watched the movie Kashmir Files, and where Anupam Kher was always just dreaming, having a vision. I have to go back, I have to go back to that places, revisit that places. So then I understood what my forefathers they were saying to us. They wanted to go there, they were having this thing, they were having that thing. So it took me too much time. As you said that really we don't have that kind of media which is supporting this thing. So that's why we are not able to understand the real thing. But the things are now coming. Fine. Good. So now it is a time for vote of thanks. Now I invite Dr. Najmul Hassan to present the formal vote of thanks. Najmul sir, are
Ma'am,
you there?
ma'am, I feel that before this vote of thank, any student want to say
Okay.
something or
Yes,
feedback.
yes. Okay. Fine,
So
fine.
it will be good before the
So,
vote of thank.
okay, we would love
If
to
anybody
see a
is ready, ma'am.
participant. Yeah, there are the two people who have given their names to me. So, first of all, Swarnil, he wants to talk about. So, Swarnil, are you ready? You want to share your thoughts?
Yes, ma'am, definitely.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. So first of all, I would like to pay my earnest gratitude and salutation to Dr. Anita ma'am and Dr. Bhanumati ma'am, the chief guests of our event today. And then I would like to pay my earnest greetings and salutations to the professors of our DAVPG college, and then to all the scholars and seniors and all the friends that are present here today with me. So my name is Swarnil Bhattacharya. I'm a fresher student at DVPG College, and throughout this entire workshop, I had a very revealing clarification in some sense, and some sense of reminiscence as well for trauma literature and Holocaust literature. So just like Anita ma'am sometime earlier was talking about post memory, and right now Dr. Bhanumati ma'am shared her grieving experience with I think one of the families in Kashmir. So I would like to represent as well as present a part of genocide and trauma literature that is often not talked about much in the academic sense, which is the Bangladesh genocide. So I'm a Bengali Hindu and I belong from the northeastern state of Tripura. And as far as I remember, I have, since I was a child, I have always heard about the Bangladesh genocide of 1971 and the Noakhali riots and massacre of 1946. Even in the recent Bangladesh riots, where a lot of Bengali Hindus have been displaced, it sort of generates a turmoil inside of me and my community. And I have seen this transgenerational trauma or post memory or collective trauma in a second hand experience, as Dr. Bhanumati ma'am had illuminated us with a few moments earlier. So I have experienced this. I've seen such people in trauma. I've seen and heard the stories that they have told. Dr. Annie, ma'am, had presented to us in the workshop a feminist aspect of it. I remind myself of the 4 lakh women who were reportedly raped during this Bangladesh genocide. I get reminded of the 3 million people who died in the Bangladeshi Hindu genocide. And I also get reminded about I'm sorry, I'm a bit emotional right now as I'm talking about this, because this is something that's directly related to my ancestry and to my community. Nobody talks about this at mainstream media, and many stories, as Anita ma'am had highlighted a few moments earlier, that stories need to be written on this. Dr. Bhanumati ma'am also paid a lot of stress into this. It's it's very emotional when I think about the 3 million people who were killed. More than 2 crore people were displaced. And even today, some of them are in refugee camps, some of them have not yet settled. Most of our ancestors have settled in the northeastern states, and they belong to a land which was before Bangladesh, before East Pakistan, which was something known as the East Bengal. And it's currently extinct from any literature or academia, as far as I know. It's often less talked about. So I would just like to represent that part of it. And I related to this workshop and to the uh, keynotes of every speaker who are here on a very personal level. And I would like to say that I've seen trauma, I've heard of trauma, and I know what is generational trauma. So I have immense respect for people who are trying to give it a new perspective, ethical perspective, and learn from it. So I would just like to say that this workshop has given me great clarity, and I would again like to thank all the professors and scholars who have been a part of it. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to end my speech with this.
Ma'am, can we take one more participant feedback? Ragini Didwania, are you there? Would you like to speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. A very good afternoon to everyone present here, our respected chief guests, guests of honor, dear professors, and all my friends. I am Ragini Didwania from MA Final, and I'm here to present a feedback on the workshop that we had in the previous week. We have had a really enlightening workshop with ma'am on the Holocaust, and wherein she covered the history of the genocide, various new terms like Shoah and anti-Semitism, and she also told us about the corpus of literature that exists on the grave issue. The insights that ma'am provided us give us a lot of information to reflect on the nature of trauma, loss of identity, and the struggles of survival that people experience not only in the Holocaust, but in a way they continue to experience it today. So, I myself find the history of the Holocaust very interesting, and I have read a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl, in which he provides very personal and close experiences of his survival in the Auschwitz concentration camps. And I could relate to a lot of stories and incidents that ma'am talked about to those that I read about in the book. Ma'am talked to us about identity erasure and dehumanization, and I could relate it to an incident in the book where Dr. Frankl writes that as the elderly and the sick people would be put to the Nazi concentration camps, who would be put to death, being of no use. So the people who were young or healthy would use short pieces of wood or glass to scrape their skin so that the blood would rush to their skin and it would make them look more healthy. So they would do this to save their lives. And there is a very profound quote by Friedrich Nietzsche in the book where he says that he who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow. So somehow these excruciating details of how people survived the World War and the Holocaust with such meager means and in such bad circumstances teaches us that as long as an individual has a strong sense of purpose and spiritual strength, he can face almost any challenge in life. The way ma'am and our guests of honor talked about the various theories and different modes of resistance by the survivors of the Holocaust and the genocide is something that we have gained a lot from, and we certainly have some significant and interesting information to remember and contemplate upon ahead in life. So I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to our resource person and our guests of honor. And so thank you, everyone.
So some more we will take oral feedback after the vote of thanks. Fine. So now I invite Dr. Nizmul Hassan to present the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. A very good afternoon to all of you. As we move toward the formal vote of thanks, let me take a quote. It's by William Arthur Ward. He says, "Feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it." So, in the spirit of these words, I would like to express our gratitude to everyone who made this workshop a success. First and foremost, a sincere thanks to our chief guest, Professor Anita Singh Ma'am, Head Department of English, BHU. Ma'am, your concise and compact, insightful address on ethical implications of Holocaust has not only deepened our understanding of the subject, but also sparked meaningful reflections on the purpose and importance of writing and reading Holocaust literature. We are truly grateful for the wisdom you have shared with us today. I would like to extend my humble thanks to our guest of honor, Professor Bhanumati Ma'am. Ma'am, your poetic reflection on trauma in the context of partition literature, and especially in the context of Kashmir trouble, added a deeply personal and artistic dimension to today's dialogue. Thank you both for your time. You have given your valuable time on this precious Sunday. So your insights have left an indelible mark on our journey. My heartfelt thanks to our esteemed resource person, Dr. Annie Vimladi, for her profound insights, dedication, and unwavering support. Ma'am, your guidance has been invaluable, and we are deeply grateful for the knowledge and wisdom you have shared with us. Thank you, ma'am. I extend my gratitude to our manager, sir, Mr. Sri Ajit Singh, sir, and to our principal, sir, Satyagopalji, sir. Your visionary leadership has empowered us to organize this workshop successfully. A special thanks goes to our head, Dr. Sangeeta Jain ma'am, for her dedication to the student-centered learning, which has been instrumental in organizing this workshop. My thanks to our dear colleagues, Dr. Indrajit Mishra sir, Dr. Mahima ma'am, and Sanskriti for their support and encouragement. And my special vote of appreciation goes to our students, especially Ragini, Niyati, Nistha, Swarnil, and Ritushri for their dedication behind the scenes. And finally, a heartfelt thank to our esteemed guests, dedicated research scholars, and all participants who joined us with this week. Your engagement and thoughtful discussion have been the highlight of this workshop. Thank you all. Thank you, ma'am. Over to Vandana, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. The feedback link has been shared in the chat box. We kindly request everyone to fill it out, and the certificates will be ready within a week and we will share them soon. So, till that time, please stay in the WhatsApp group for updates. And now, if there are some students, some participants who want to give oral feedback, they are welcome.
I'm saying it's okay. They have to fill the feedback form. Okay. And after that, we will circulate the certificate also. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nazmul. Thank you, Vandana.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Bhanumati madam.
Thank you,
Bhanu,
Sangeeta.
ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Bandana. Thank you, Najmul.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Nishtha, Ragini, and all. Thank you. We'll meet soon. Okay. Bye bye. Happy Diwali to everyone.